well as I do, just as 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 well as I do, as well as I do, got rich on just as well as I do.
Good morning. Thought a little, Beyonce's behind would wake us all up. So these are the kind of images that are constantly being broadcast through our media and all over wherever you look, this kind of hypnotic imagery, and a lot of money is put into the actual rhythm to how this imagery is being broadcast. And there is also a lot of money being made on you not knowing that you are getting this hypnotic imagery put into your psyche, put into your subconscious. So I'm very interested, and we were just in Nepal, and we were with this amazing Rinpoche. He's one of the oldest Rinpoches still alive from Tibet, and made it out of Chinese prison. And he was in Chinese prison for 21 years, and he said something to us that really touched me, which was that when he was in Chinese prison, which is not a fun place to be, when he was there for 21 years, he felt more free than he's ever felt. And the reason was that he was connected to his own sovereignty through his mind training, through his meditation, through his spiritual practice. So 21 years in Chinese prison, and it was the freest that he has ever felt. And it touched me in a deep way, because I know that with this happening in the world and all the time, in the most subtle levels and not so subtle levels, we went to see Beyonce and Jay-Z last summer, Julian and I, and it wasn't so subtle, machine guns and ass and the whole thing. And so I know that it's so important in an increasingly pressurized world because of all of our technology that really it's not a luxury anymore for us to be participating in some aspect of mind training. And I come from a certain lineage, the Kundalini Yoga technology, and this lineage, part of the whole basis of the lineage is that if you know how to hypnotize yourself, which is meditation, self-hypnosis is meditation, if you know how to hypnotize yourself, then no one can ever hypnotize you. That's power. That's sovereignty. And the definition of sovereignty is one who calls themselves, declares themselves a leader, or a king, or a queen. And the Kundalini Yoga science comes from a lineage that's called Raj, which is a royal lineage. So in the lineage itself and in the technology, there's this taking back, or this grounding of human majesty, human dignity. And there's technology, there's ways to do it, because I feel like in this age, there's so much, and in the age, kind of the new age that we came from, there was a lot of satsang and a lot of, it's all about love, but okay, we know it's all about love, but how do we get there? How do I get there when I'm angry? How do I get there when because I didn't grow up with TV. Anytime a television is put on in front of me, I'm just because I don't have training for, if you grew up with television, you actually have a little bit more defense on the television, but because I didn't grow up with it, I'm just, I'm hypnotized right away. So I knew I had to do something to help myself, because this is a hypnotic kind of experience. And so the mind training and the how, there's many technologies, and we'll practice one today just so you can have something to take away with you, is so important in an age where the whole of everything is available to us at one push of a button. So our psyches, the pressure of that on our psyches is so much, and we're used to it, so we don't really know necessarily, but when we get out into nature like this and kind of have a moment, you can kind of start, especially if a couple of the services aren't working up here. How are you guys doing with that? the anxiety that starts to build, right? And so I believe, and as we are touring around the world and talking to so many people, the luxury of meditation is no longer a luxury. Everyone needs something, even if it's, and we'll do something that's, 5 seconds. Even if it's 5 seconds or 3 minutes or however long you want to do, we're kind of zealots. We like to do like 31 minutes. But you can do just a small amount of time where you start to basically deprogram what is this input stream that's coming so heavy through every channel. And the reason being is that they make a lot of money putting this input stream into us. So we have to start to consciously and intelligently take back our sovereignty, because there's massive billions of dollars both being put into figuring out how to pump these images into society and make sure you feel like there is definitely, most definitely something wrong with you. And you're going to need this, that, and the other thing to figure out if maybe you can correct your original sin, but probably not. So let's try another product, right? And the money that's being pumped into both the marketing of that and then how we as consumers behave with that hypnotic pulse is intense. And those who are making the money don't want to stop making the money. So you have to stop. You have to start to construct a space where some clarity can come through, and the thing that's happening right now on the planet is that people are getting much, 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 much more sensitive. So it's a time where it's very auspicious. We can take back a lot of what has been kind of what we thought were thought forms of our own, which are not thought forms of our own. They're actually collective kind of thought forms and religious programming thought forms and all sorts of other thought forms. They're not our thought forms. And I remember when I first moved to Los Angeles, I was young, and I lived in New York City, and I never thought about having bigger boobs. The thought never even crossed the screen. But I remember when I first moved there, I was sitting and I was actually, I had enough mind training where I saw the thought go across the screen. And I was like, oh, this is the Los Angeles collective consciousness bubble. This doesn't belong to me. But without training of the mind, what can happen is that thought goes across the screen or the stream. You see it and you believe it and you think it's your own, and then all of a sudden you're down some sort of rabbit hole that is away from your own power. And so we're interested both in the how, because we need ways to reclaim this. So we're interested in the how, and also starting to use what we call in the yogic science this kind of intuitive eye, starting to use that to be able to maneuver through a very complex time and space. We live in a much more complex world than even 10 years ago. So the need, which is not a luxury now, it really is a practicality to be able to establish some sort of sovereign thought experience is a daily practice. So in this kind of yogic science world, the way that we look at this whole thought process is every blink of an eye, you have 1,000 thought forms that now have gone across the stream. One of them is, maybe my boobs should be bigger. And then there's 999 other thoughts. And the thing that is really important about mind training is that we're not trying to turn that off. There are other lineages that maybe have tried to turn off that kind of 1,000 thought form matrix. That just takes too much effort. It's going to be there every blink of an eye, 1,000 thoughts. To make it even more complex, those 1,000 thoughts have two sides to them. They have a negative and a positive side. So now we're working in 2,000, every blink of an eye, 2,000 thought forms. The only way to maneuver to pick a thought form that's going to actually serve your highest good, and more importantly on the planet, the highest good of everyone else. This is why we're interested in this, because we actually need to start to serve humanity And so we want to pick a thought form that's going to serve on some level. So say we pick one that's a little bit higher than the other. So whatever the kind of the habitual self-loathing, self-hatred, whatever the habitual thing is, we decide, we did our meditation and we picked a thought form that was a little bit higher caliber. So there it is. Now, it still has a positive and a negative charge because we live on a polarity planet, which is one of the wonderful things about being here. The polarity planet is just phenomenal. You can have so many different experiences, and you get to experience them in a body, which is a very coveted incarnation. So here we are with the negative and the positive. If you choose the negative spin of the higher caliber thought form, your endocrine system starts to secrete differently. Your brain chemistry changes. The pineal gland, the pituitary gland, the whole secretion of the glandular system shifts. If you choose the positive spin of the higher caliber thought form, it's a different secretion. So this is where we're getting into the whole chemistry and biochemistry of this kind of sovereignty. And this is why I love the Kundalini Yoga technology, because we're describing a deep kind of anatomy and physiology, and then brain and endocrine and hormonal system shift when you choose a negative spin on even a thought form that was a higher caliber. So we have all this information, we have all these input streams on subtle levels and not so subtle levels, the magazines and the whole thing. The pressure is very, very, very high. How are we going to both choose the highest caliber thought form and then try to choose the positive spin on it? And really, the answer is the only way is if you have some sort of daily practice where you start to clear the mirror. Because at least then you can, okay, here it is, and maybe I am going to choose the negative spin, but I'm going to use that to maneuver in some way, because everything's usable and everything's workable. But we have to practice awareness to be able to work it and use it in a way that's going to benefit ourselves and others. So the pineal gland, and we talk about this a lot, is everybody pineal gland savvy around here? No. Okay, so they did a study. They took the pineal gland of old rats and they put in the young rats. And then they took the pineal gland of the young rats and they put it in the old rats. And the old rats overnight de-aged and had a whole new kind of fresh intelligence. Young rats died within 24 hours. So this pineal gland, which we're just scratching the surface of what this does, in yogic science for thousands of years, and you see it in all the kind of iconography of the Egyptians, and you see it in many different streams, this kind of center eye of the brain, this central pulse of the brain, through conditioning, just like we condition our muscles and, all sorts of conditioning we do through our physical practices, through conditioning this central pulse of the brain, the pineal gland, it can start to basically be at a higher wattage. And the higher the wattage of the pineal gland goes, which is really important as you go through a chronological aging, because the whole aging process is the calcification of the pineal gland, which is proven by this rat situation. So you practice something that's going to start to elevate you, and there's actually a physical elevation. Physically, we elevate and we start to use certain practices like this mula bandha. You pull up, and you pull the energy up. We physically do that to start to increase the wattage of the pineal gland. Now, what's going to happen with that is that when the wattage is increased, that means you take like a 60 light bulb and you replace it with an 80, you're going to get more light. So the thought forms that then have shown up every blink of an eye, the 1,000 thought forms, are going to be 20 degrees on a higher frequency. So you have a better chance of picking something that's going to be more pleasant And ultimately, I like to get nerdy with this, but ultimately the whole thing is very practical because we all want to be more fulfilled and happy and feel better about ourselves. And we all want to get over this kind of post-religious hangover of infinite and inborn sin. I mean, you just never have a chance. And that's programmed really deeply in. And the thing, even if you weren't born into a religious household, it's so deep in the society. This is what this is inborn of. Those images, that's a whole kind of polarity. You're a sinner, that's what that comes from. And so if we've increased the wattage of the pineal radiation, is what we call it, then we have a higher frequency of thought spectrum to choose something that's then going to benefit us. In reality, whatever we've all agreed that there's walls and this is happening, reality is a trance. So that means that you can define the trance. Self-hypnosis. Your reality is a trance of your own making or someone else's making who doesn't have your greatest good in mind. So meditation and contemplation, any kind of contemplative practices, I'm biased, I like the Kundalini practice, but any contemplative practice is going to give you an ability to start to take that sovereignty of thought choice back. And then when there are thoughts that aren't yours, because a lot of times some of these pulses of thought forms come from a space of your lineage. You're still in kind of the potato famine, genocide, whatever particular genocide your lineage lived through. You're still, on some level, there's a cellular resonance to that. And so a lot of times the thought forms come from this kind of lineal space. So at least at this point, once you practice something to clear this kind of windshield wiper of the intuitive eye, you can say, oh, that's not mine. That's actually not my thought because I'm happy. I am happy, I am good. It's one of our mantras. So, and I've been giving this example a lot because it's my favorite example. We just went to see the Rolling Stones. You guys know that band? I was blessed to be in the front row, which I actually felt a little guilty about from my religious programming because we were with like diehard Rolling Stones fans, and I was just, with my friend. But of course, when I go, I'm scanning the whole, like, what's going on? Because these guys have auras, else they wouldn't be famous. And they have stayed together. So I wanted to kind of get the whole structure. And one of the things that pleased me the most is that Keith Richards, you guys know him? Keith Richards, basically, Mick left the stage to change his leather coat, of course, very Mick, and he was gone for 2 songs. And so Keith Richards sauntered up to the microphone, and he didn't even have a monitor on, which just made me laugh. So he didn't even care how he sounded. He got on the guitar and he was singing, and everybody was like, oh, and they were like sitting, the whole crowd, we were in Petco Stadium in San Diego, the whole, 20,000 people sat down and kind of like, there was like you could hear the sigh in the audience. And so he's just singing and he's not really on the beat and the whole thing's like gone awry. And then he sings another song. He sings 2 songs. And he's having the best time of his life. There was not one moment where he had any other than the best time of his life. And I just thought, what a great yogi this guy is. He is locked into a thought form, which is, I'm gonna have a good time. I don't care what happens. I don't care if Mick's off the stage. I don't care if he's on the stage. I don't care about his leather jacket. I don't care about a monitor. I don't even know the words to this song, and I'm going to have a good time. And it inspired me because just as you can start to maneuver some of the thought forms that maybe are the more habitual thought forms that you've chosen time and time again that aren't serving you, you can also, with this practice, any kind of mind training practice, you can start to choose a thought form that is going to serve you, and you can start doing it over and over again. And one that I really like is, I'm happy. This is great. I'm having the best time ever. I'm a Keith Richards big fan, and I'm going to follow in the footsteps. So I'm having a good time. And no matter what is going on in the context of your life, you put your life inside of that hypnotic trance of reality. Now, if we had more people practicing this, you know how it feels to be around someone who is happy. Like having Keith Richards up there, even though it was like it wasn't good at all musically, it was such a pleasant experience because he's transmitting, I have chosen to have a good time in this coveted human incarnation because so many people have suffered. Why should I? And there's so many unhappy people on this planet, and just by evidence, by what happened this week, and this is, now every violent shooter that has done something like this in the past 30 years has been on some mind-altering pharmaceutical drug. They certainly don't care about you choosing a thought that's going to empower you. And they're making billions of dollars, and they have no care for you and your human sovereignty. So we see this kind of stuff happening, and now more than ever, we need a group of people who are deciding that they're going to enjoy their life, and that's going to start to inspire others. And no matter what the context is of loss and gain, because we're humans and we live on a polarity planet, and you're going to lose, and you're also going to gain. Both. You get both. Isn't that great? So, no matter of that, choosing a thought or a reality or a trance that's going to make you happy and then inspire others is a great gift to humanity. So I'm inviting you to start to practice this. Let's do one quick practice with it. It just takes a couple seconds, and you can practice this. You're going to close your eyes and you're going to take a deep inhale. And you're going to hold your breath, and the tip of the tongue presses the roof of the mouth. This starts to stimulate the pineal gland, the central brain, and you're just going to say to yourself over and over again, mentally, you're going to say victory. And you can start to direct it maybe in a direction where you're not feeling so empowered, you're not feeling so good, or confused, or you need some energy or some clarity. And then exhale. Let's try it again. Inhale. Hold the breath, and now tip of the tongue, roof of the mouth, and say to yourself over and over again, victory. You're locking it in. Victory. No matter what. That's the experience you're going to have. You're sovereign. You choose. Exhale. One more time. Inhale. Hold the breath and just pulse. Victory, victory. Put it into your past, put it into your future, put it anywhere that you need to remember who you truly are. You're free. You're alive. And exhale. So you can use that anytime you need it. You can also use it before you go into something where you know you're going to need a little extra direction. Something like family. Anything hypnotic. I have one more for you. Just, I like to watch TV.
I'm sick and tired of hearing things from uptight, short-sighted, narrow-minded hypocritics. All I want is the truth.
You were not the first option on that plane, so what were you doing out there?
I was just doing my assignment, being ready to shoot, always ready to shoot. I worked on it all day. Every day I work on that, and that's what you see, hard work.
How much that we have actually trying to connect with our own heart? And how much of that particular attempt to connect with our own heart has to be repelled because you might discover something terrible in you? when we want to really connect with our heart, what are you? Who are you? Where's your heart? If you just put your hand through your rib cage and feel your heart, there's tenderness. It feels sore and soft and it hurts. And you want to spill your heart to relate with others. That types of tenderness does bring a notion of fearlessness. Fearlessness that you have possibilities so that the world around you can tickle your heart, your raw heart.
We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Thank you.
If you tell a big story, and that's going to become kind of a theme here today, if you tell a big story, eventually that story starts to kind of fill itself out. So in 2012, in the spring, we started having people show up in these workouts that we hosted. Right here is our very first member, a woman named Sarah Wild. She's super fast.